Did you know Buckaroo Banzai lost $11 million and caused its studio to go bankrupt? So many wild ideas and characters left audiences confused, but now it's a cult legend. Stick around for 10 shocking secrets that explain how this happened. Here are 10 secrets about the Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai. Starting with number 1, the original concept and how the whole thing came together. The film's origins go back to the mid-1970s, when W.D. Richter's wife introduced him to short stories by Earl Mac Rauch. The earliest version was titled Lizards from Saturn and featured invading aliens who spread venereal diseases. Thankfully, they changed that. The hero was initially named Buckaroo Bandy, but executives thought it sounded too American. Richter fought to keep the name Banzai to honor the character's Japanese heritage, and he won that battle. Richter funded the initial script development with his own $1,500, bringing Rauch to Los Angeles to work on different drafts. Over the next several years, through the late 1970s and early 1980s, Rauch wrote numerous versions with titles like Find the Jet Car, Said the President, A Buckaroo Banzai Thriller, and The Strange Case of Mr. Cigars. The concept drew inspiration from 1970s kung fu films, classic pulp serials like Flash Gordon, and the literary style of Thomas Pynchon. Rauch created such a dense universe with so much backstory that the script assumes viewers already know about Buckaroo's previous adventures. By 1980, Richter and producer Neil Canton started pitching to studios. They got a deal with MGM and UA before the project moved to 20th Century Fox with a $12 million budget that eventually grew to $17 million. Principal photography started in September 1983 across various California locations. They used an old Firestone tire factory for the Yo-Yo-Dyne propulsion system scenes where the red Lectroids hide. The jet car test sequences were filmed in the San Bernardino Mountains. The 1981 Writers Guild strike delayed progress for months. Post-production included innovative sound design and Michael Boddicher's electronic score, which replaced earlier plans for a rock-heavy soundtrack. The ending parade was filmed to Billy Joel's Uptown Girl as a placeholder, and that influenced how the actors marched in rhythm. This prolonged development process, spanning roughly a decade from concept to release, allowed Rauch to pack the script with layers of references and world-building that fans still unpack today. But it also created a film so dense and unconventional that mainstream audiences in 1984 didn't know what to make of it. Number 2 takes us into the casting surprises and all the people who almost played these roles. Peter Weller wasn't the first choice for Buckaroo Banzai. Tom Hanks was considered early on, but executives dismissed him as just a TV guy because he was coming off the sitcom Bosom Buddies. In 1983, nobody could have predicted Hanks would become one of the biggest movie stars in history. Michael Keaton also turned down the role because he didn't want to commit to a 3-picture deal. Eventually, an open casting call led them to Weller, who learned basic guitar specifically for the nightclub performance scenes. Jeff Goldblum brought that cowboy outfit to his audition by mistake, and it became his entire character's look. He and Weller bonded over music and actually performed together for years after the film wrapped. Christopher Lloyd was director W.D. Richter's only choice for John Big Booty, and Lloyd makes the frustrated alien henchman absolutely hilarious, especially in scenes where other characters mispronounce his name. Lewis Smith, who played Perfect Tommy, had to sit through 8-hour hair dyeing sessions to achieve that platinum blonde look. Robert Ito secured his role as Professor Hikita by showing up to auditions wearing old man makeup he applied himself, proving he could pull off the character. Clancy Brown, who later became famous as the voice of Mr. Krabs on SpongeBob SquarePants, played Rawhide as the everyman character audiences could relate to. Looking back, the cast is stacked with people who went on to massive careers. Weller became RoboCop, Goldblum starred in Jurassic Park and Independence Day. Lloyd had the Back to the Future trilogy. Lithgow won Emmys and Tonys. Ellen Barkin became a major Hollywood actress. Jonathan Banks eventually starred in Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. At the time, though, many of them were relative unknowns or character actors. The chemistry between this ensemble masked a lot of the script's problems. They played off each other so well that you believe they're actually the Kong Cavaliers, a band of adventurers who've been working together for years. Secret 3 is that watermelon scene everyone remembers, and the story behind it is perfect. When Jeff Goldblum's character New Jersey tours the Banzai Institute laboratory, he spots a watermelon sitting in a hydraulic press. He asks why it's there, and the response is simply, "I'll tell you later." That's it. No explanation ever comes. The official in-universe reason, added later, suggests they're stress testing food drops for poverty-stricken areas. But the real reason is way better. As mentioned earlier, the production team placed watermelons around sets to test if executives were watching dailies. No questions about the watermelons meant the suits weren't paying attention, giving the crew freedom to experiment. Goldblum improvised the question, and rather than cut it or provide an answer, the filmmakers left it as an absurdist joke. The line became one of the most iconic moments in the entire film. Fans have spent decades creating theories about what the watermelon means. Some see it as an existential metaphor about questions that don't need answers. Others view it as commentary on the film itself, a story that refuses to explain everything to its audience. Still others think it's just a funny gag with no deeper meaning. The beauty is that all interpretations work. This single moment captures everything that makes Buckaroo Banzai special. It's weird, it's unexplained, it's memorable, and it trusts viewers to either figure it out or just enjoy the strangeness. The watermelon has appeared in fan art, convention discussions, and countless online debates. For a prop that appeared for maybe 30 seconds, it left an enormous impact. At number 4, John Lithgow's performance as the possessed Dr. Emilio Lizardo / Lord John Horfin deserves its own deep dive. Lithgow created one of cinema's most memorable villains through some very specific choices. His Italian accent came from Roberto Terminelli, an actual Italian tailor who served as dialect coach and recorded lines for Lithgow to study. The accent sounds absurd, mixing Italian inflections with an alien's attempt to speak English, creating something Lithgow described as Mussolini meets Gumby. Then there's the physical performance. Lithgow developed what he called the old crab walk for his character, based on the idea that the alien possessing Lizardo's body has a completely different metabolism and moves in ways that human joints shouldn't allow. He shuffles and contorts himself throughout the film, making every movement unsettling. Lithgow committed so fully to this weird characterization that he stole every scene he appeared in. His over-the-top delivery of lines became instantly quotable. The production was chaotic and nobody really understood the full story, but Lithgow found the core of his character and ran with it. Years later, both Lithgow and Peter Weller still speak fondly about making the movie. Lithgow reportedly owns a Team Banzai jacket that he wears sometimes, showing his continued affection for the project. The torture scene where Lithgow interrogates Weller showcased both actors at their best, with Lithgow going completely over the top, while Weller tried desperately to keep a straight face. That dynamic tension between Lithgow's scenery-chewing villain and Weller's stoic hero gives the film much of its energy. Secret number 5 reveals the deleted scenes and forgotten characters that left huge gaps in the story. Jamie Lee Curtis filmed a flashback scene playing Buckaroo's mother, but it got cut from the theatrical release. However, her photograph still appears on the jet car's dashboard if you look closely. The 2002 DVD release restored this scene, letting fans finally see it. But the biggest cut was the villain Hanoi Zan. In the full script, Zan leads an organization called the World Crime League. He's responsible for killing Buckaroo's parents when Buckaroo was a child, and later he murdered Buckaroo's wife, Peggy. This backstory explains why Buckaroo seems haunted and why the romance with Penny Pretty, who turns out to be Peggy's twin sister, carries so much emotional weight. Beagleman insisted all the Hanoi Zan material be removed, thinking it made the plot too complicated. The problem is, characters still reference him throughout the movie. People mention the World Crime League. Penny's connection to Peggy gets brought up, but new viewers have no context for any of it. This makes the film feel like it starts in the middle of a story, like you're watching a sequel without having seen the first movie. Some fans argue this actually enhances the cult appeal, because it creates a sense that Buckaroo Banzai has a whole history we're not seeing. Others find it frustrating and confusing. The 2021 novel finally brings Hanoi Zan into the story properly, giving him the villain role he was always meant to have. Those missing pieces explain why so many first-time viewers feel lost watching the film. Coming in at number 6, we have the brutal studio interference that nearly destroyed the production. Producer David Begelman, who had a history of controversy in Hollywood, made the filming process incredibly difficult. One of his strangest demands involved Buckaroo's signature red glasses. Executives told director W.D. Richter that Peter Weller could wear them in no more than 4 scenes, threatening to shut down production if he appeared in them more often. Why? Nobody really knows, but it became a bizarre restriction that limited one of the character's most iconic visual elements. Then there was the cinematographer situation. Jordan Cronenweth, who had shot Blade Runner just 2 years earlier, was hired to give the film a dark, atmospheric look. Peter Weller praised his work as Rembrandt-like, saying the lighting and composition were incredible. But halfway through production, Begelman fired Cronenweth and replaced him with Fred J. Konekamp, who had a more straightforward, traditional style. This sudden change altered the film's entire visual identity. The crew faced constant threats of layoffs and budget cuts. At one point, the interference got so bad that the creative team developed the watermelon test. They scattered watermelons around various sets to see if executives were actually watching the daily footage. When nobody asked why watermelons kept appearing in random scenes, the team knew they had some freedom to take creative risks. This led to the organic alien ship designs and other unusual choices that define the film's look. The minimal promotion and marketing budget basically guaranteed the movie would fail at the box office. But ironically, this studio meddling during production followed by abandonment during release is part of what made the film so unique. Secret 7 focuses on the improvised moments that made the final cut. Christopher Lloyd, who played the alien henchman John Big Booty, flipped off John Lithgow during one scene, and it wasn't in the script at all. Lithgow started laughing so hard they almost had to stop filming, but they kept it in. Jeff Goldblum's famous question about why there's a watermelon in a hydraulic press during the lab tour was completely improvised. His character New Jersey asks about it, and another character just says, "I'll tell you later." That line became one of the most quoted parts of the whole movie. During the torture scene where John Lithgow's villain interrogates Peter Weller, Weller had to fight not to laugh at Lithgow's ridiculous Italian accent. This was the first time Weller heard the full accent in character, and he nearly broke. You can see him struggling in the final take. These spontaneous additions gave the film an energy and unpredictability that matched its weird tone. Goldblum showed up to his audition wearing a full cowboy outfit from Nudie Cohn's rodeo tailors by mistake, thinking the character needed that look. The directors loved it so much they made it part of New Jersey's costume. The cast developed a real bond during filming, and that chemistry translated into playful moments on camera. When you're working on something this strange, sometimes the best choice is to embrace the chaos and see what happens. Number 8 is about the sequel that never happened, and this one stings for fans. At the end of Buckaroo Banzai, the credits promise another adventure called Buckaroo Banzai Against the World Crime League. The whole cast marches down a street in their costumes while this announcement plays, setting up what should have been an amazing franchise. But the movie bombed so hard that Sherwood Studios, the company that produced it, went completely bankrupt. No sequel money meant no sequel movie. But the attempts didn't stop there. In the late 1980s, there were plans to turn it into a TV series instead. That got shelved in favor of trying another movie. Then in 1998, Fox actually filmed a pilot episode for a television adaptation, but it never aired. Fast forward to 2016, and Kevin Smith announced he was developing a new TV series for Amazon. Fans got excited again, but lawsuits with MGM shut down the project before it could happen. The only continuation that actually made it out was a 2021 novel published by Dark Horse Comics. It's called Buckaroo Banzai Against the World Crime League, et al., a compendium of evils, and it picks up right where the movie left off. Earl MacRauch, who wrote the original screenplay, wrote this novel too. It features Buckaroo fighting against the villain Hanoi Zan and dealing with supernatural threats across different planets. Some fans love it, while others think it portrays Team Banzai as too aggressive and mean-spirited. An audiobook version exists for people who prefer listening, but no film version has ever been made due to ongoing legal problems with MGM owning the rights. Secret number 9 takes us into the practical effects and the mistakes that made it into the final cut. Back in 1984, CGI wasn't really a thing yet, so everything had to be built by hand. The alien spaceships were designed to look like seashells instead of the typical metallic flying saucers you'd see in other sci-fi movies. This was intentional, meant to subvert the usual tropes and make the red Lectroids feel more organic and strange. The Oscillation Overthruster, the device that lets Buckaroo travel through solid matter, was actually built using a gyroscope with added circuits and lights to make it look futuristic. The Lectroid alien makeup was incredibly complex, with each actor wearing 12 separate latex pieces that had to be applied before filming. The design was inspired by dinosauroid concepts, those theoretical ideas about what dinosaurs might have evolved into if they hadn't gone extinct. But here's where things get interesting. During one of the spaceship scenes, a miniature antenna on the model actually breaks and disappears mid-shot. You can spot it if you watch carefully. The production team left it in the final film because they didn't have the budget to reshoot it or fix it with effects. These kinds of happy accidents actually add to the film's charm now. The jet car itself was custom built from a Ford F-350 truck base, with parts borrowed from a Buick Regal and even a Messerschmitt aircraft. It cost a fortune to build and could barely drive, but it looked incredible on screen. The film's practical effects work showed the ingenuity of 1980s filmmaking before computers took over. And finally, secret number 10, we need to talk about how confused everyone was on set. And I mean everyone. The cast later admitted they had no idea what was happening in the script. Many of them compared it to being in an Indiana Jones movie, except without the clear storyline that tells you where you're going. Peter Weller, who played the lead role of Buckaroo Banzai, drew inspiration from real people to create his character. He studied Jimi Hendrix for the cool factor, Elia Kazan for the intensity, Jacques Cousteau for the explorer vibe, Albert Einstein for the genius side, and even Leonardo da Vinci for that Renaissance man quality. Weller actually had a PhD in Italian Renaissance art, which made him perfect for playing a character who's supposed to be good at everything. Dennis Haysbert, who had a smaller role in the film, said the only thing he understood about the story were the themes of love that ran through it. The production itself was chaotic, with constant changes and studio interference. But somehow, this confusion mirrored the absurdity of the plot itself. When you're making a movie about a rock star physicist neurosurgeon who drives a jet car into the 8th dimension to fight aliens named John, maybe not understanding everything actually helps. The cast committed fully to their roles despite the confusion, and that dedication shows through in every scene. This chaos forced everyone to trust the process and just go with the strange energy of the project. The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai bombed in theaters, bankrupted its studio, and confused almost everyone who saw it. But those 10 secrets show how it became legendary through home video, fan dedication, and the realization that sometimes the weirdest creative choices are the most memorable ones.